evening, everybody. Happy holidays. This is Dana being Dana, and I am your host. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We're celebrating. It is the holiday season, and we are over here full of good cheer. Ho, ho, ho. I don't understand why people laugh when
Can
I
we
say
make that joke again?
The ho, ho, ho joke?
I thought there was no name calling.
Whoa, here we go. Speaking of which, before we get into one of my favorite topics, which is connecting with people, I just want to address something because I think there's been a lot of talk in the news and there's been a lot of disappointment, I think, particularly with Matt Lauer and others like him. And I just want to assure the audience and everybody out there that there be any inappropriate contact, sexual contact or otherwise, with the host of Dana being Dana. So just so you know,
I'll see you guys later.
This is a very loving and friendly environment, and everything is completely consensual. No, but in all seriousness, I think that people who have courage to speak up. There's a lot of that going on in the news, and talked about me not addressing it, and I just want to address it. And I think that it's just important for people to stand up and come forward. And just so you know, rest assured, there will never be any reveal about any inappropriateness going on Dana being Dana that's not purely consensual. Speaking of inappropriateness, I brought some of my favorite friends here tonight because what we're talking about is mentoring and networking and just connecting with people, because I think it's so important in whatever profession you decide to be in or that you're in or that you want to do later on down the line. You're never too young by trade. And I wanted to bring people together who were here with me, and we'll talk about a little bit later. It's full of a lot of white men, right? There's a lack of diversity.
Allegedly.
And I brought the best looking white men I could find.
Mike.
And Michael.
Cut me to the bone.
No, but I'm really excited that you guys are here. I've got a great group of people, a fabulous panel of friends of all diverse, and we're going to be talking about diversity, networking, mentoring, because all of you in the building tonight were crucial and important to my career in getting started. So number one, thank you for all of that. I'd like for you guys to all introduce yourselves, and you could say where you work or not, and just give me some of your thoughts on mentoring.
Wow. So I'm Bill Rudnick. I'm a partner at DLA Piper, and I've been practicing law for almost 30 years. And question of mentoring.
That's fine. I'm going to come back to you.
Come back to me.
You know I am.
That's my hope.
Ken?
Hi. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank
for letting
you.
us join you. And I'm Ken Schmetter, also a partner at DLA Piper, where I first met Dana. And that's such a broad topic, but I think in the end, it for me, it just comes down to wanting to know about other people's stories and their dreams and their objectives, and connecting with them and trying to understand how we can help them. As I saw how you navigated your way through the world so successfully, I remember thinking, why didn't people tell me some of those things, how to do some of those things? Why don't we just tell other people what we're just saying about them behind their back instead? So that's a start.
That's good stuff.
I am Michael Kasdan, and I'm a partner at the law firm of Michelman and Robinson. And I was a partner at the law firm DLA Piper, so we're kind of keeping with the same theme here. And on mentoring, the world can be a lonely place, and we all need someone to help us along from time to time. And I know that there's always been people there career who have lent a hand, and it's something that I think we all have a duty to pay forward and give to others, and make it a little bit less lonely in this lovely profession that we've all chosen for ourselves. That's it.
Bill?
I'm Bill Chislovsky, white guy number 4.
Yes, contestant number 4.
38, but I read at a 49-year-old reading level. And once upon a time, I too was a partner at DLA Piper, and that's where I met you. And your topic made me think that, how were we all drawn to you? I mean, and that really touches on mentoring, which is too often it's defined as a one-way street. And that I even printed out some definitions from the dictionary.
Wow.
Harvard Law, ladies and gentlemen. Harvard Law.
We call that a safety school at Cornell. I'm just saying. I just want to put that out there.
I'll second overratedness. But all the definitions are really insufficient because they all kind of project this term, but almost master-servant relationship or something. And it strikes me as wrong in the sense that if it's done right, it shouldn't feel like a sense of duty. Again, I met you because I was reviewing summer associates' written work.
Reader, which meant that he read attorney for me for a specific project. He read all of my work, and I want to tell you. Go ahead.
It was
and finish.
that exciting. Let me be clear about it.
It was awesome.
But I
probably
did that for 10 at that column kids or whatever. Something I enjoyed doing. So that's number one part of mentoring, which is if I had to review something else, I may not have enjoyed it, but I like writing. And I'd like to think I approached the other 9 the same way, but I'm still not in contact with the other 9, whatever it is, 10 years later or 15 years later. So that begs the question, why? And when I think about it, it's because it was a two-way street. It wasn't just taking. I enjoyed it. I felt a sense of appreciation. You were taking something from it. You were learning. You were running with it. So it's not unique to law. I'm convinced wherever you find yourself, it's done right. It should be, the fancy word is organic. You shouldn't have to think. And this is probably why most formal mentoring programs, intended as they are, probably, I don't want to use the word fail, but
are less.
Fail.
Yeah, no, I think that's right.
I think another word for that is fail.
Yeah.
Because you can force
How does
things
that in
only
French?
so far.
Fail.
Le fail.
So you get my point. So that would be my takeaway,
Nous failons.
which is it's important. It can come in all shapes and sizes, but to be done right, if it feels like a sense of duty, it's probably not going to work.
Well, one thing I appreciate about you is I went to a very challenging law school, and I was a very good student in high school and in college. And when I got to law school, I felt very average. I was working really hard to be in the median. And being with you, professionally speaking, as my reader, I just appreciated, because you saw my writing, you saw my value. And I think law school in some ways is intended to break you down, devalue you, unless you go to Harvard, and then it builds you back up. I felt like such an average writer. I was questioning, should I be in law school? What should I be doing? And it was that summer, and you having a view to all of my writing and all of the work that I did at the firm, which reaffirmed, okay, I can be a good lawyer. I can be a good writer. I'm going to kill this thing and knock it out of the park. And so I appreciated that. And for me, that's what solidified a relationship. And I said, I always want to, you validated me as a writer, as a lawyer, as a professional. And so I thank you for that.
To be clear to the audience, she is still not a practicing lawyer, so we didn't do too good of a job.
Dana, you mentioned something about how law school is designed to break you down and rebuild you. I don't know. I think it's more of law is not a career that school can prepare you for. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of law school, frankly, is a waste. And it's teaching you a process, a mental process, an analytical process. And at the end of the day, you need a person to show you what to do. You can't really come up with another profession where when you leave a trade school, you are more ill prepared to participate in that profession than when you think about law school. You come out of law school, if someone threw you into the courthouse on day one, can you imagine what would happen? I still remember the first words I ever said to a judge in court after I got my license. And I had practiced my speech the whole way to court. And it was to get a continuance, an agreed continuance. And I stepped up and I gave my little speech, and the judge stared at me for about a half a second. She said, "You just got licensed, didn't you?" Like, first words out of her mouth. You have no idea what you're doing. And if you don't have someone there to hold your hand and show you what to do and teach you how to be a lawyer, you're not really gonna make it.
Bill mentioned mentoring being a two-way street, and you were really a prime example of how the mentee can really be such a great facilitator in that relationship. Summer associate, you coffee or breakfast or lunch with every single attorney from every department, everyone in the firm, and everyone walked out assuming that you thought that what they were doing was the most fascinating thing there was in the world. And very transparent, but still completely effective, because by doing that, not only did you learn a lot more to help cultivate and build those relationships, and presumably you could find out who you think is going to be more of a genuine relationship that you can develop a more organic relationship with.
Which is a great segue into networking, which you do so well, which is about
Thank you.
And growing that network and continuously adding value to that network. And it's either authentic or it's not.
Right.
And if it's not, you're not going anywhere. You can go anywhere you want. And that's something that you have to teach people, because it's not intuitive. People don't jump into doing that sort of thing, other than you.
Well, I think that's something that you do well as well, right? And you've even got it down to a science. Even the handshake, right, is important. And the art of a handshake. Can you tell us a little bit about the art of the handshake and why it's important?
Sure. So the backdrop of this is that periodically we bring high school students through the firm, and we what is it like to be a lawyer for a day, and that sort of thing. Do
they get to do document review?
We send them to court, and the judges are really impressed. I don't know about you, Kasdan. I always talk to the kids about is how to shake hands, and I frame it in terms of vocabulary, in terms of in certain environments you speak a certain way, in certain environments you dress a certain way. You come to a radio or a program like this, and you wear fur slippers,
or no pants,
or no pants. You can't see. So what I focus on is how to shake hands, and how that conveys to the person who you're shaking hands with that you know how to shake hands, that that you ought to be in the environment that you are in right now, that you know what you're doing, and that you're comfortable.
Right. Handshake feels like.
He still hasn't answered your question of how to shake hands, actually.
Bill.
So
is this good? You're going to pull me in like Donald Trump? Is that going to be?
Well, he's not going to grab you by the hand.
All right, go ahead.
I'm doing nothing like Donald Trump. All right, so the first thing, all the way in. You don't stop here.
There we go.
You go all the way in.
That's what she said.
Too easy, Dana.
The second thing is present. You're not just limp. That's what she said.
That's what she said.
Cheers. You're hard. Something like that.
Oh, wow.
All right. I'm just looking for the line. All right. No, don't let go. Don't let go. And the last thing is, it's that. It's not that.
It's not that.
Well, sometimes it's that, but it's very different when it's that. So that's it. That's how you shake hands.
Bill actually said something I think that's really worth following up on related to this, which is about authenticity in particular. And a lot of people view networking as a dirty word. And I think the reason they do that is because so many people are inauthentic when they do it, and numbers, and it's about collecting business cards or whatever you want to say. But there's a way to do it and mean it the best way to describe it, frankly, is being authentic with it. And I think that's the difference between people who are very successful at it and people who are not. The mentoring concept, you can be authentic with it, or you can expect a master-servant relationship where it's more of, call it an apprenticeship or whatever you want, but I think it's a very different relationship. And authenticity is an interesting way to think about that.
I think that's right. If we go back to what Ken said as an example about the breakfasts and the lunches that you did,
And the coffees.
and the coffees
dinners.
and the dinners and the
And the
drinks, right, and the early mornings. What he described is that everyone who talked to you walked away thinking that you were really interested in them. They
Which
thought,
is true.
Well, that's my point. They thought you were really interested in them because you were.
Yeah.
Because you were learning. Because you wanted to hear their story.
Right.
Right.
And you can have the exact conversation with a different person and have the exact opposite reaction of this person's full of it.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, when I met DLA, a reception, which is a reception intended for law students who don't live in Chicago when they're home for the winter break. And it's intended for them to get a chance to see and meet and interact with Chicago law firms while they're home. And DLA hosted it in 2004 when I was a first year. And I had worked in corporate America for 4 years before law school. So I was not even really interested in firms. I knew I wanted to work for a judge. I had just had an interview, got the job opportunity to work for free for a judge, and I was super excited about that. So I was just going to accompany some of my other first-year friends at the Sweet Home Chicago reception. And I started meeting, because it was held by DLA, I met several people at that reception, and a hometown friend of mine, Mila Bearfield Young. Hi, Mila. She was there at the time.
She better be watching.
She better be watching. I hope you're tuning in. That's the St. Paul family there. And I really enjoyed talking to the lawyers that I met. It wasn't a law thing. It was a people thing for me. And I believe I'm a people person. And so we just all connected. And that's what started the relationship. It was natural. It was very organic. And it continued throughout that first year, even though I was already working for a judge that summer. But when OCI on-campus interviewing came around, I was already in the mix with DLA. And so DLA came first, and it was a no-brainer for me because I had such great connections and had met so many people at the firm.
But hold on, let's get to the hard question. And I'm serious here, which is a situation about somebody who is a people person. So for the mere mortals out there who are not people or people persons or whatever, and it's not easy, do they, since this is for the broader public, and that the notion is what does he or she do when they're not in their comfort zone, and it doesn't come normal to go to breakfast every day with a different person, and that's not your comfort zone or whatever.
You can, this is very important to convey to all young professionals, to convey to anybody. Get yourself out of your comfort zone, number one. And it doesn't mean you have to change your personality. You don't have to pretend to be an extrovert. You don't have to pretend to be you can be authentic. You can still practice sometimes taking those steps and engaging in those conversations and reaching out to people in ways that you haven't. And part of mentoring is being comfortable enough so that two people can talk to each other to say, what's the most effective way for me to do this, do you think? What are some strategies? And I'll pick out the one that's most comfortable for me.
I think that to take it a step further, I think it's a question more of where, not how. What is an environment in which you're comfortable meeting somebody, talking to somebody, getting to know somebody? Is that a large room where you can work the room? Or is it one-on-one, comfortable environment?
Bathtub.
Yeah. Pardon?
In a comfortable bathtub.
That was one time.
Great networking opportunity.
Bill makes a good point, and I actually did
this bill, right? This bill?
Yeah, Bill's made a good point. And I did a series of seminars for associates to teach them about how to start building a practice and how to network in a professional context. Meaning, how do I take my network and turn it into clients? And what's the move there? How do we do it in a way that's not right? And lawyers can be pushy and awkward. And the conversation was, how do we take this network we're developing and do something with it? And the answer is what you both alluded to, and that's figure out who you are and be authentic and be interested in the people you're talking to. And it's the process of getting to the end and not the end itself. Go. If you're genuinely interested in someone and you want to learn about their problems and their successes and everything like that, they're going to connect with you. And you need to really view it as an exercise in getting to know people as more than getting into their wallet.
I think it's two things. I would say, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Your show.
It's two things.
Ho, ho,
ho. Ho, ho, ho. I think if you approach every opportunity with an open mind, I just wanted to meet as many people at the firm as I could when I was a young trying to get an offer from a firm. So I would ask people to lunch, and there was one partner who was like, I don't do lunch. I just don't do lunch. So I was like, okay, well, what do you do? He was like, I do breakfast because I don't need things interrupting my day. So that's why I would go to breakfast.
Can you tell us who it was?
Slippers. And so my thing was like, every opportunity you approach with an open mind. And I think another key, which I think people fail to realize a lot, when you don't need it. Connect with people when you don't need anything, because then when you do need something, it makes the ask so much easier.
But even take that a step further. Network when you want to find something you can offer.
True.
And the point of my interactions with people when I meet at various events is how can I help you with something?
Yeah.
I don't come looking for things. I come offering things every time. And you can call it psychobabble or spiritual nonsense, whatever you want. But I very much believe that there is a karmic circle out there, and that you give and you give and you give, and it will come back. And sure enough, that's the way it works. So you come and you look, how can I connect people? Who can I introduce you to? What's the problem I can help you solve to help you? And then that makes an impression. But again, you have to be authentic about it. It has to be because you want to do it and not because you're expecting something, because people can smell that.
That's true.
You don't want to come off as that person.
That's true.
So a couple things. Number one, get in the habit of, you're meeting somebody, you're having lunch with them, you're having breakfast with them, you're spending time with them. To Michael's point, always ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing what you will find out, and it's amazing how people will react. You talked before about law school. You talked about how you have this sense that what law school tries to do is destroy you, break you down. There's actually a broader phenomenon. A large institution will dehumanize you. It's just the nature of large organizations. They can't accommodate every single person and all of their idiosyncrasies. And so they create these boxes, and you have to figure out how to fit in those boxes. If that law school, if that law firm, if that company succeeds, you will fail. And you will fail because of something else that Michael said. You need to be who you are. You need to present what you are authentically. It's not just about giving authentically, it's also being authentic. And it is that authenticity that will draw people to you. It is that authenticity that, for every pot there's a lid, for every lawyer there's a client. If you do not express who you are.
So if you want a standing desk, hand,
No,
Billy.
you build it.
There you go.
Because it's 1994 and there ain't no standing desks.
There you
and
go.
You got to create your own.
The prospect of being broken down by a potentially dehumanizing institution lends itself to another facet of mentoring that we hadn't talked about yet. Not just professional connections within an organization and not just with potential clients or existing clients. But what about people who feel broken down? What about people who are broken down? What if people are caught up in office politics? They are not quite sure what they might be doing, what they want to be doing. There's some interpersonal issue. They know they need to be professional, but they don't know how to go about doing that. Very difficult situation, especially for a young person. You can feel that if you voice doubts about what you're doing to the wrong person at the wrong time, it could be viewed as a sign.
Fatal.
It can be fatal in the organization. At the same time, it would be insane not to be able to talk about that because about it. We have to make it work. And frankly, if the situation doesn't work, if it isn't the right situation, let's find the next best situation so that if we're not going to be working together, it's on good terms and maybe in a way we can work together in some other capacity.
And I remember, as big as our firm was, when I got pregnant with my first kid, it was within my first year. And there was no other associate who was pregnant at the same time. And it was a very scary time for me because on some levels it was unheard of. And I remember confiding in actually ended up telling you all. And the funny thing is that Michael's wife was pregnant at the same time. It was a different scenario because I was the attorney in the office that was pregnant. Wife at home. I love Jen. But I appreciate the support that, and that's why I talk about, networking and building things up when you don't need it. Because I wasn't like, I need to talk to these people because I plan on getting knocked up soon. But it was like, we're building relationships, we're building friendships, we're building connections, and you don't know necessarily when you do need it. And that's what I was appreciative of having all of you early in my career. I mean, Michael and I worked together. Ken, we were in the same group. Ken and I were in the same, Ken was the hiring partner when I was a summer associate. And Bill just runs the firm. And so I think you were the managing partner of the office at the time. But I just appreciated the professionally that we had, you all being supportive of me, because it meant so much in terms of my networking and my mentoring, just getting a solid start in my career.
Well, a thing that a lot of people don't realize and focus on, and it's probably getting more attention nowadays than it did, and it continues to get more attention as time goes on, is that support sometimes too. And I'm not too proud to admit that when I was a young, wide-eyed associate, I had very rough patches, and I had to rely on people who I trusted and who were mentors to me to tell me what to do and how to react and how to handle certain situations.
Blasphemy.
Do your mentors, did you do
after they laughed at me for my weakness, and then
It's your sweater.
It's your sweater.
It was very important to know that if I didn't have real mentors who I trusted and people who I could have a real conversation with, I can tell you right now, there's no question. And you have to have that kind of support, because the fact of the matter is very few people, I think, whether you're talking about getting through life without a parent or getting through your career without someone to help guide you, you need that human connection. You need someone to protect you and to tell you what to do and what not to do, and also know when to leave you on your own to make your own mistakes. So it's very important. And yours is a great example, but I think that there's similar examples for men in their career as well, where you need that sort of connection.
I think that one of the things that's so obvious here, but still is worth saying, and it relates to something that Cheslowski said earlier. I could have said Bill, everyone would know which one I was referring to. The reciprocity. it is both remarkable and not. 4 of us are sitting here because you asked us to. That we wanted to be a part of this. We both wanted to continue to help you. But, I mean, this is kind of a fun, cool thing, to be on ABC News like this. Right? This is ABC News?
Absolutely.
She told me CNN. Wait a minute.
Touch free, but yes.
I'm out of here.
Just wait for the break.
But I think that's so powerful. The authenticity and the depth of the relationships, and the fact that we get something back, and that's why we showed up.
Okay, enough of this authenticity crap. Okay, but one thing to try intellectual radio to make it less cerebral is it hit me that too often in mentoring relationships, people define success as the mentee mirrors back essentially the mentor. And how did you succeed? How did you paint by numbers or connect the dots? And that, I think, is a fatal flaw. I mean, it really does go back to what I was just mocking, the authenticity. And they call it being Oprah-esque or Dana-esque. It really is that cheesy notion of, because if you're trying, otherwise you chase your tail. So if you're trying to mirror your mentor, I mean, don't get me wrong, that may get you from A to D, or that summer that may suit you well or whatever, but ultimately a dead end road. So it's the notion of, it goes back to that relationship, but the goal isn't to mirror your mentor.
But it also goes into finding the right person to look to as a mentor, right? Because you want someone who is similar enough to you, guidance. And, I may...
Clearly. That's exactly what I did.
Similar enough personality-wise, let's say.
That's true, though. I do think the personality connection.
Yeah, there may be some great mentors out there, but I'd jump out a window if I had to their footsteps because we're incompatible. And the primary person who sort of showed me the way, and we have very similar personalities in many respects. So part of the trick, if you will, is finding the right person and the right person to hitch your wagon to.
But it's also finding take it a step further. It's the right persons.
Absolutely.
We shouldn't expect that one person sphere it can satisfy all of what we need. Can
don't tell my wife that.
Is this a Mormon
this
thing?
This is just a professional satisfaction.
And thank you, everybody. This is going to sound even funnier. It gets more so the case the older you get. Because the older you get, the further along you get in your career are above you. When you're starting out as a first-year associate, everybody's above you. And as you progress, that cohort gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And if you're going to continue to be mentored, you have to have multiple people to draw upon for particular pieces that you're looking for particular advice, for particular life experiences.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're going to continue this conversation about multiple partners after a short break. To Dana being Dana. We're going to have some more of my friends joining us, and we're going to continue this discussion on mentoring and networking. Once again, this is Dana being Dana on IntellectualRadio.com. Thank you. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Dana Being Dana. I am your host, Dana Michelle, and we are talking about mentoring multiple partners. With me right now are some of my friends. And I first want to introduce one of my favorite mentees, Dana. She's also Dana Being Dana, so she gets me. And we'll go into our story in a minute, but I want to talk. This is Dana, and I want the rest. We go ahead and say hello.
Hi, I'm Dana. I'm a fourth-year associate at Sidley Austin. Dana is my mentor.
Yes, and I'll tell you about that in a second. Stephen, who is my mentor. Stephen Hunter.
That's right. That's right. Stephen Hunter. I am a partner in the commercial litigation group at Quarles and Brady.
Yes. And Megan.
I'm also Dana's friend. So
Yes.
I am Megan Webster. I'm in-house counsel at BMO Harris, and I was also at DLA with all of these fine people back in the day.
And I'm Janai Givings-Bailey. I think we have a mentor-mentee relationship, sort of reciprocal, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I want to start with Dana because I met Dana at a program at DLA Piper, and it was of college students who were interested in a career in law. One of the things that we can talk about are how first impressions are lasting impressions, because out of all of the students in the room, I saw Dana, and she had such a vibrant personality and was so focused and determined. I see myself. I was like, what's your name? She was like, Dana. And that was just it. It was just it for me. But college, you were at Loyola.
Yeah.
To college, she went on to law school. Tell them where you went to law school.
NYU.
Huge fan of you. I'm so proud of you. And that's one of the things that I want to talk about is that to have a mentor, be mentorable.
Yes.
So I wanted you all to react to that and respond to that and what that means. I do think and this is what I tell all of my mentees, and I love all you all out there. I think anybody you want to be your mentor is busy. They've got a lot on their plate. They've got a lot to do. So in order to be mentorable, situation in a certain way. And what does that mean?
You're looking at me.
That's a question. That's for anybody.
Well, I'll jump in and just say I could not agree with you more. It's actually one of the notes that I made, which was the importance of being mentor or protege ready. And I think about proteges in the context of having sponsors, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But like you said, the best mentors out there are incredibly busy and have a limited amount of time, and they are excited and willing and interested in supporting a prospective mentee, but they're only going to invest their time in those who are willing to do the work and who they feel are worth the investment of their limited time. So I think that prospective mentees have to think about, like, how do they put their best foot forward, demonstrate that they are worth the investment of time. And there's lots of different ways that people can do that, but it starts with, I think, a strong investment in yourself, and not just going up to someone and saying, hey, will you be my mentor? But maybe bringing value to that individual in some form or fashion, I think is a great way to do it. And again, that comes up in lots of different ways.
So your passion about what you want to do, right? If you walk in the room, those people who have that kind of energy for some reason will be attracted to you, and they'll never leave. Stick around, and that is what, to me, is how you identify a mentor. That was part of their be you, but be you with an exclamation point, right? So that people understand that you really want to be here. And if people are also passionate about their job and their profession, they will be attracted to that about you.
You for who you are.
Exactly.
And in many ways, all that you are. Do you have just one mentor? We talked about multiple partners, and we were joking, but I think it's important. We were serious, but one mentor?
No.
I think that's.
I'm not your only.
Right.
I know I'm not.
I think we might need to go to a break. Right.
Pretty much.
The Danas need to chat.
Are you cheating on me?
No, not at all.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't think one mentor can fit the entire bill because you've got life issues, personal issues,
Absolutely.
parent issues, kid issues, dating issues, spousal issues, marriage issues, divorce issues, health issues.
Right.
And so I think you can be mentored in many different ways by people pouring into you and life experiences.
So,
Oh, sorry. And I think as a mentee, one thing that I've learned is to recognize who fits in which lane, right? I think everyone will not be able to mentor you in all of the areas in which you just named. Some mentors are just for work at one particular place, maybe one particular deal or one type of style of work. Whereas, maybe our relationship where I can talk to you about any and everything, which I do, appropriate based on the relationships you have. And I think discernment is so important with respect to mentor and mentee relationships because you have to know when and where and what to talk about. Mentors to take advantage of the precious time that you get because as a mentee, I'll go on a tangent, but as a mentee, you have to meet your mentor where they are a lot of times in order to get what you need and in order to provide what you can provide, which I'm actually interested to hear what mentees can provide, but a street. So I think discernment is important.
And what I love, go ahead.
I was going to say, I would also just dovetail on that and say that like any other relationship, your mentor-mentee relationship will likely evolve over time as well. So you may start at one level and look out years later and discover that you're at a different level. Maybe the role has even reversed in over the course of time. So they do evolve.
What's one thing that you've learned from a mentee of yours that you've had?
I can
There's
go.
a lot,
I'm sorry.
right?
And I
Like-
love the fact that you're a mentee,
Yeah.
that you're a mentor now,
Yeah.
which is pretty awesome.
And I think it's hard because everyone thinks that everybody has this formalized group of these are my mentors or these are my mentees. And I think the group that you brought together today is a perfect example that, Dana, you're starting to see. All of us don't see each other every day. Some of you are really lucky to see each other. But as soon as Dana invited us, all of our inboxes blew up and we were thrilled to see each other. And it's like, even if we haven't seen each other in a year or longer, it's like we never skipped a beat and we always want to be together. And I don't know if that's a reflection on the, I'll call it Rudnick and Wolf family.
Yes.
But it's also a function of you shouldn't have to try to be a mentor and you shouldn't have to try to be a mentee. And I think it fits right in with networking. I feel like I'm lucky that I have a couple friends in the world, and some of them are people I really want to emulate, and some of them are people I just can say, I don't want to do that. And I think that's just as important. And I don't think at any age in your or any portion of your career, there's anyone who can sit back and say, I've got this, I figured it out. I think it's always an evolving process of what do I want to be when I grow up?
so I don't like the word mentor. I
Yes.
think friends kind of
Yep.
explains it a little better. You can have friends that are older and younger, but it actually describes the relationship. It makes it easier if you describe it as friends because you want them to be successful. If you're a mentor or not, you want them to be successful. Things that you can do, you were saying, I mean, compliment, right? Everybody enjoys your interest in something that your genuine interest in something that they're doing. And you are just a few years from your mentees being your potential clients, referral sources, etc. So it won't be long before that role can change very quickly.
And you never know when you're going to need somebody.
Right. And I was
You
gonna
always
say,
need somebody.
you
always
need
do.
someone every day.
But
Absolutely.
you have to have that fundamental, you cannot look to anyone in your life to say, save me, right? Like you
Right.
can look at your network, but if you don't have a fundamental belief in yourself to say, I need some help to get through this, you can't rely on other people to get you through it. Like everybody needs help and everybody has bad days and we're all trying to figure it out. But at the very core, you have to be willing to put in the time. So if you're looking for a mentee-mentor relationship, and you said, and Steve and I were talking in the back, if you go to a networking event, go with what you can give back, right? So go with the expectation like Kasdan was saying, like pay it forward and have that ability, but you can't look to someone else to make your career, make your life happy.
So,
You can, friend.
right. Also, a lot of it is people that you don't like, right?
Ooh,
that's an
the
important
people that you don't
yeah,
like.
that's an important part of it, right? Like, so you go to some of these social events or you're interacting with folks, and there's some people you do not hit it off, right? That is critically important to recognize very quickly, right? Like, me and this person probably will not get along well.
Right.
That is like, I think 80% of the mentoring game, right? Because 20% of those people you will really get along with, you'll want them to be successful, they'll want you to be successful. The other 80, possibly
Not so much.
Yeah.
I think and I do think it is important to know what you don't like or what doesn't work well for you. You've hit some bumps along the road, and sometimes they're the assigned mentor relationships don't always work. We talked about how some of those formal mentoring programs sometimes fail because it's not organic. And I tend to shy away from those more so, and I'm drawn to the ones that bring me closer to people through more natural. One of the things that I love about—
Can I say a quick word about
please
formal mentoring programs?
Yes.
And the sort of the fail rate. I don't disagree. As someone who's responsible for trying to create artificial environments for people to mentor and sponsor one another, there are inherent challenges to in those situations, and people should not be afraid to raise their hands and say, this relationship isn't working. That is, I wish more people did that. Some people do, and if people are listening and tuning in and they're stuck with a mentor or mentee relationship that really is ineffective, and try to change it,
because it's not personal.
It's definitely not.
It's not personal.
Yes.
And 9 times out of 10, that feeling is mutual.
Yep.
I've never had a relationship, a mentoring relationship, feeling somebody who wasn't feeling me.
Yeah.
Right?
In part of
it. But usually the feeling is mutual. Like when you've got a great chemistry with somebody, you both know it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it, because I've had such great experiences in how I was raised in the legal profession, that it was so natural when I met Dana and other mentees of mine, because I felt the same type of energy that I felt before. And that's what feels so good. That's what's so important, to pay it forward.
Yeah.
And that's
part
why
of
we
it's
do
also, I think, that people lose track of is peer-to-peer. Like
peas and carrots.
Right.
Yes,
Cousins.
which is the greatest compliment you can have if you're in my shoes. But I mean, I will tell you that the most that you can do to take advantage of your relationships is don't forget about peer-to-peer. I joke around, and Stephen and I were talking about this today, that one of my favorite lines is from his dad. And to this day, I think about it, and I never met his dad. And I've heard other people saying quotes from their mentors and their mentees, but now you have to share the awesome quote from your dad that we would talk
He's
many
like,
late nights.
if you die at your desk, someone else will pick up your work tomorrow.
That's true. Say it again louder.
So if you die at your desk, someone else will pick up your work tomorrow.
And
You're
so no one in my
fungible.
family's a lawyer, and so I was like, wise words by a partner, Sidley and Austin. We're baby lawyers. I was like, all right, I still have to build my hours.
A lawyer told me that at DLA. It was a corporate lawyer who said to me, he said, if you got hit by a bus, and because sometimes we have delusions of self-grandeur, like, oh, it's gonna have a fit if it's not me. That and yes, you're important, yes, you're valuable, and all those other things. Times where you have to put things in perspective, right? We all have families, we all have parents, we all have that pull our attention outside of work. And that's one great thing about a mentor, is someone who can check you, so to speak, when you are on a tangent, in your feelings, when you're someplace, a sanity check that we all need from time to time about different things.
Can I give the young hunter version of that?
Yes.
The young hunter version of that is the sun will rise, Mr. Kasdan. That was what he said to me.
So that's one of my mentees.
It's true. It's true. It's the whole notion of don't sweat the small stuff.
Yes.
And I think
Totally.
in a profession that is so detail oriented, that focuses on the minutia, right? We're paid big bucks to spot the issues. And so in that business, sometimes and we can't see the forest for the trees in our own world. And that's where it takes a great mentor and a great relationship, whether it be peer, ugly superior, or even a mentee, to be able to bring you back and pull you back.
Or a trusted advisor.
Yes.
I love those folks.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have a question for you on the diversity angle. That you
Please.
had before. Do you think it is important for associates who are not minorities to have mentors who are minorities?
So, and I asked, the question was, do I think it's more important to have mentors who are not minorities than
No,
to
if you are not a minority.
If you're not a minority.
associate, do you think, because I know that it's important, like you were saying, that you bonded and that none of the people look like you.
Yeah.
Is that also critically important?
Yeah. I think it's important to have a diverse board of directors, if you will. And people use the term board of directors are people that you choose to be in you. And I think that should be a diverse group. And that they all physically look alike. Right. But I think having somebody that you connect with within your company, outside of your company, on a family or personal level, right? Maybe they have a parent who has the same illness as your parent. Maybe it's somebody who's got the same sexual orientation as you do. Maybe it's somebody with the same kid issue. Crazy. But having those different types of connections. School, right? So you're going to meet a lot of different people. And I think having that board of directors, not necessarily what they look like physically, but having that type of diversity of profession, interest, connection is very important to your career. Because if the same person who's got the same parent is still giving you the same career advice, who's in your company, then you're like, okay, maybe this is what I should be doing. Maybe this is what's right for me, because on a personal level and a professional level, it makes sense. And so I think just diversity overall is good from the different perspectives that it comes from. Thank you. Thank you very much. Do you guys have any final thoughts or points with respect to diversity, your advice to people who are looking for a mentor?
I would say one of the things that I found to be most important as a mentor, which is also weird, is how important trust is. How important it is to trust your mentor. I think one thing that has always worked out for me is that when Dana said to do something, I just did it. Lead me astray. I know that she wants the best for me. She won't lead me down a path of disaster. And I think that when you don't know someone, when you're getting to know someone, having trust could be new is scary because you don't know them. You don't really know if they're going to lead you, where they may lead you. But if you don't have that trust, it's hard for those mentoring relationships to work because it goes both ways. They're trusting you with their time and their advice, and you have to trust them to take it. So.
Yes. That's very important. Well, I want to thank you all for being here. The time went so fast. I really appreciate everything that we talked about. I think that I am truly blessed to have friends, colleagues, confidants, friends of mine in mentoring relationships with you all, sponsors and all that. So I just want to thank you all for being there for me.
Thanks for having us.
And personally, I want to thank our sponsors, Michael Kasdan, Ken Schmetterer, and Stephen Hunter. I really appreciate you all. Thank you all so much for being here. Next week, for the smartest guests that I've had, you're wrong, because next week is my kids' show, and where the average age is 6. You're at the wrong show. But we are having a pajama party next week Kids are going to be here turning up for the new year. It's our last show of 2017. Tune in. They are going to be dishing on their Christmas and all different other types of topics. You won't want to miss it. It's going to be live, so get ready. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Have a great night.